Hello class, my name is Karalyn DeLaRosa and I'm going to be presenting to you polybrominated diphenyl ethers, which will be referred to as PBDEs for the remainder of this video. I will begin by explaining what PBDEs are, where they are found, explain a risk assessment on them, and then sum it all up for you. PBDEs are man-made chemicals that are manufactured to reduce the ignition and spread of a fire. It wasn't until the late 1970s when fire safety standards increased the use of chemical fire retardants. There are three types of commercial PBDE homologs, which include pentabramodiphenyl ether, which is referred to as penta-BDE, octobramodiphenyl ether, which is referred to as octa-BDE, and decabramodiphenyl ether, which is referred to as deca-BDE. Deca-BDE is the most widely used PBDE globally at 82% in comparison to penta-BDE at 11% and octa-BDE at 6%. At high temperatures, PBDEs release bromine radicals that reduce both the rate of combustion and dispersion of a fire. They each have their own unique molecular structure that consists of 1 to 10 bromine atoms that are attached to the ether molecule. The mixtures of the chemicals in the different PBDs are called congeners. Each mixture has a distinct compound and number of bromine atoms attached, which allow 209 possible PBDE compounds. Commercial PBDEs are found in products that individuals interact with on a daily basis. Octa-BDE is used in plastics for business equipment and is labeled DE-79. Penta-BDE is used in foam for cushioning and upholstery and is known as DE-71. Deca-BDE is used in textiles and building and construction materials, electronic equipment, and formulated as DE-83R. Furthermore, PBDEs are also found in sediment, air, wildlife, and human adipose tissue, as they are mixed in the products they are found in rather than bound to them. This results in PBDEs leaving the products and entering the environment and intoxicating living things. In 2004, Penta and Octa-BDE were voluntarily withdrawn by their manufacturers in the United States marketplace, and Deca-BDE was phased out by 12/31/13, as regulations were set by the EPA. Here's a brief illustration of objects inside of a house that would contain PBDEs. Hazard identification. Studies done on laboratory animals explain toxicodynamics associated with the exposure to PBDEs. Health effects associated with exposures to brominated PBDEs include dermal irritation, liver, thyroid, developmental and reproductive toxicity, and developmental neurotoxicity, especially in children. Furthermore, infants and children experience cognitive development, impaired motor skills, increased impulsivity, and decreased attention when exposed to PBDEs. PBDEs enter outdoor environments from volatilization, leaching, degradation of PBDE-containing products, and PBDEs enter indoor environments from the migration of PBDEs from products. Humans are exposed to PBDEs through toxiconetics, including dietary sources such as fish, meat, dairy, fatty food, and breast milk, oral ingestion from air and dust, human tissue, sediments, sludge, effluent, and contact with soil and equipment that releases PBDEs. Modes of action analysis on PBDEs conclude that Deca-BDE is the only formulation that has been labeled as a possible human carcinogen based on a study the EPA did on mice and rats. Other formulations of PBDEs are classified as a Group 3 carcinogen. Response assessment. A study done on animals explained by the CDC indicates that PBDEs have low acute toxicity but have influence effects on thyroid function, neurodevelopment, hepatic enzyme induction, and injury in subchronic or chronic dosing studies. Lesser brominated PBDEs have been reported to have phytotoxic and reproductive effects, to alter expression of estrogen-related genes and receptors, and to have anti-androgenic effects. According to the CDC, human health effects from PBDEs at low environmental doses or at biomonitored levels from low environmental exposures are unknown. A study published by the EPA on rodents explained long-term dietary exposure of 51 and 56 milligrams per kilograms per day to commercial mixtures Octa and Penta-BDEs caused liver enlargement and were more frequent in males than females. Short-term 14-day exposure to between 18 and 72 milligrams per kilograms per day of commercial Penta-BDE mixtures in mice resulted in immunotoxicity effects, including suppressed antibody response and decreased thymus weight. In addition, neonatal mice treated with 6 mg per kilogram per day for 15 days experienced neurobehavioral alteration, non-habituating behavior profile, and hyperactivity into adulthood. Exposure assessment. To begin, low levels of exposure to PBDEs potentially pose no threat to human health. But according to the EPA, a total of 21.76 magnetotellurics of DecaBDE was released into the air, water, and land in 2007. Approximately 95% of the global production of penta-BDE, 40% of octa-BDE, and 44% of deca-BDE were consumed in the Americas. The EPA study explained that adult food intake contributes to about 10% of total exposure, compared to PAPAs if dust and dermal contact is 90%. Although children experience lower measures of exposure to PBDEs, children between the ages of 1 to 5 experience the greatest amount of intake, which is a result of the body burden impact modeling found in levels of PBDEs in blood and infant intake modeling for the breast milk pathway from adults to children. Environmental fate explains the contaminant of PBDEs in birds, fish, insects, aquatic, and mammals, which create human intake via the food chain. PBDEs that are exposed to different levels in the environment impact the United States general population intake over time. This includes BDE congeners containing 1 to 4 bromine atoms exist in the vapor phase. BDE congeners with 5 to 6 bromine atoms partition between the vapor and particle phase, and BDE congeners containing greater than 6 bromine atoms are primarily absorbed into atmospheric particles. The 2004 California Air Resources Board conducted a study on dust in homes that concluded that PBDEs are exposed to humans and animals in the workplace environment and mostly inside of their homes. Characterization. Despite the regulations that restrict commercial uses of PBDEs, health effects due to exposure still remain. The 1,832 current or former NPL sites that the EPA evaluates does not identify PBDEs even though they exist. This means that the possibility still remains and exposure to PBDEs may be harmful to humans. According to the TRI, total environmental releases peaked in 1999 with a release of 53.9 mt. Then there was a drop in releases in 2003 to 36.3 mt, followed by an increase in 2004 to 44.8 mt, and then declines in 2005, 2006, and 2007. The phase-out of PBDEs in manufactured production and commercial uses happened in 2013. Therefore, there are still great amounts exposed to humans, wildlife, and the environment each day. These are great amounts that have been disposed into certain areas, such as the EPA states it is possible that 1,747 mt PBDEs were disposed of in U.S. landfills in 2005 alone. These areas are going to continue to contaminate the environment, wildlife, and humans. States including California, Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Rhode Island, Oregon, and Washington have banned C-penta-BDE and C-octa-BDE as of 2004, according to the EPA, and deca-BDE regulations offered a greener approach to safety among Americans. There are medical tests that individuals can take to measure their exposure to PBDEs through human blood, breast milk, and hair samples. If an individual or anyone you know knowingly experiences high exposure to a potential PBDE, they should be tested immediately. Residents who reside in the United States should eat a heart-healthy diet, clean their floors with HEPA, clean air ventilators, cover and seal rips and upholstery with exposed polyurethane foam, wash their hands frequently after any outdoor activities, as dust containing PBDEs can collect on their hands and be ingested through hand-to-mouth activity. In addition, individuals should contact their mattress manufacturer to see whether their mattress is made with polyurethane foam that contains PBDEs. Furthermore, households should try to replace older products with new ones that meet substance guidelines, which will significantly decrease exposure to PBDEs. Thanks again for watching my video. I hope that you learned something informational about PBDEs, and just remember that even though commercial PBDEs have been banned for safety purposes by the EPA and certain manufacturers, high levels of PBDEs still do remain in the environment and pose a great threat to human, environment, and animal life.